Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat.
Magandang gabi.
Ayun po. So, nandito na po tayo sa ating episode 16 po ng Senior City Kwentuhan at patungkol pa rin po ito sa mana natin na episodes po natin.
Good evening po, Iburns. Ito pong gabi nga ay episode 16. Ang pamagat po natin ng ating episode ngayong gabi ay West Philippine Sea, atin ito, mana natin. Yan ang atin pong medyo tututukan ngayon, lalong-lalo na sa darating na linggo ay magkakaroon ng second civilian resupply mission doon pero this time dito naman sa may Zambales side, sa Masinloc. So May 14 to 17 po iyon, next week. At ang detalye po niyan ay ibabahagi namin ni Berna mamayang konti sa banda, bago tayo magtapos ng ating episode ngayon. Pero bilang pasakalye, bilang mas malawak na background information about mana natin, meron po kaming isi-share na conversations na hinost ng PRRM noong isang taon pa po, September 11, 2023. Ito po ay parang sa alaala ng dating presidente ng PRRM, si Horacio Boy Morales, Bossman, DM, Boy, HRM, yan ang mga tawag namin sa kanya. Nag-birthday po siya noong September 11 at bilang alaala nga po ay nagkaroon kami ng conversations. Ang titulo ay Mana Natin, Appreciating the Philippines as a Maritime and Archipelagic Nation. Ito po ay hosted by PRM pero sa ilalim po ng Horacio Morales Center on Governance for Sustainable Development. Nagkaroon po kami ng 4 na magagaling, mahuhusay na eksperto na speakers nung araw na iyon. Yan po ang mga nakalista. I-share po namin sa inyo ang highlights, excerpts ng kanilang pagbabahagi, batay sa kanilang mga fields of expertise at batay sa institusyon kung saan sila nanggagaling. Ito po yung mga speakers, pero ang una pong nagsalita doon sa conversations na ito noong September 11 last year, ang nauna po ay si Undersecretary Edmund Dayaw. Siya po ay Executive Director ng National Coast Watch Council or NCWC Secretariat. Meron po palang ganito, noon din pong araw na yung ko nalaman na meron palang National Coast Watch Council or NCWC. Ang kanya pong, pakita natin Burns, ang kanyang larawan para makilala siya ng mga tao. No? So, siya yung unang mahusay na speaker nung araw na yon. Yan, si Yusek Tayaw. Siya pong Executive Director ng NCWC Secretariat. Marami po siyang binanggit na ayon sa batas, ayon sa legal framework o policy framework ng ating bansa tungkol sa ating coast, sa ating marine resources, marine areas, hindi lamang sa WPS or West Philippine Sea. And in fact, nag-share siya ng iba pang maraming updates and issues and matters tungkol sa iba pang bahagi ng karagatan ng Pilipinas. So pakinggan po natin siya. Payo ko po sa inyo, makinig kayo mabuti dahil ang dami nating matututunan dito.
Mahilig tayong gumawa ng batas na hindi naman iniintindi kung paano mai-implement ng tama. And so, because of this, immediately we did several studies in order to not necessarily just update the law, because that's what we usually do. We find out there's something wrong with the law, we immediately come up with an advocacy to revise it and introduce the things that we think would remedy the situation. But one thing that has not really resonated is how many of the policies, even if these are good policies, are implemented. Alam po ninyo, napaka-importanting bagay nun kasi malapit nang maubos yung malampaya. No? At bago masimulan ulit yung bagong source, it will take time. Because apparently, the little that I understand and know about it is Parang hit and miss pala yung drilling na yan. No? So pinakamaagang makakakuha tayo ng regular at reliable source, so to speak, minimum na yung 5 years. Minsan inaabot ng 11 years bago maging sustainable yung source na yon. I asked Pads to show you this map because it will tell you not only, it will tell us, make us understand more about us being a maritime and archipelagic nation. Not so much only with the resources, not so much only with the West Philippine Sea, but so much precisely with us being a maritime and archipelagic nation. Kasi kung maiintindihan po natin kung paano natin i-approach yung issue, marirealize natin na po pwede palang merong Philippine foreign policy talaga. And of course, it is not only something that is true for the Philippines. In fact, it is true for Southeast Asia, for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The early seafarers, the early traders, were already using the different islands as quote-unquote land bridges. Pag bumibiyahe sila from far east, okay? East kasi ito no? Pumupunta sila dyan, kahit na high seas yan at kahit na medyo hindi pa sophisticated yung kanilang mga bangka, nakakaabot sila dito sa area na to, Samar Leyte area, kasi sinusundan nila yung maliliit na islands. Kaya pala yan land bridges. And it still continues today that you have so much activity in the Celebes area, even in this area, and also explains to you why Spain was not able to control much of the Philippines, not only Mindanao, but even this particular area. Okay? Hindi nila na-control kasi yun nga, tuloy-tuloy pa din yung trade. So, pag tinignan po ninyo, it gives you all the more handle as far as the West Philippine Sea is concerned. At tama yung sinabi ni Ma'am kanina, hindi pwedeng hindi ka dadaan ng Pilipinas So parang ang gustong mangyari ng China, magkaroon ng tollway dyan. Pag dadaan ka, babayad ka sa kanila. But the long and short of it is not only a problem here, it is also a problem up there. Korea and Japan also has similar problems together with Southeast Asian countries. With the chairmanship of Indonesia now, there's an opening because it's the first time that I will see an ASEAN group come up with a very strongly messaged, strongly worded regional message, okay, directed towards Myanmar. Alam naman ninyo that ASEAN is has always been following the so-called consensual decision-making. Now, with that strongly worded message coming from Indonesia's chair, there might be some opening, or at the very least, a questioning of the situation as it is, and probably result to a reconsideration of how ASEAN makes its decision. Let me approach the conclusion, yung pauna kong kwento sa inyo. Ang ine-emphasize ko po, kaya po tayo archipelago, ibig sabihin, for obvious reasons, we're divided by water. But this is not necessarily a division. It is also an advantage. Kung alam lang natin gamitin. So, napakaraming opportunities na hindi natin tinitingnan. Halimbawa, ikaw ay galing Samar Leyte. Isipin mo, manggagaling kang Samar Leyte, lilipad ka pa ng Manila, saka ka pupunta ng Boracay. Kung ikaw ay a-attend lang ng komperensya. Hindi ba po pwedeng i-revive natin yung napakatagal ng plano na meron kang inter-island, tawag nilang nautical highway. Kasi po, kung walang aktibidades dyan sa lugar na yan, mag-iimbita yan ng ibang aktibidades. So doon ngayon papasok yung tinatawag nating blue economy. Yun pong blue economy, hindi lang economy. Hindi lang po trade. may kinalaman yan sa security. Katulad din ng sibuyas, hindi ito masyadong na-explain, pero yung pong sibuyas at bigas, hindi lang po usaping pagkain. Usapin din po ito ng seguridad. At ang kailangang mapilit natin ang sarili natin, ma-exhaust muna natin yung ating local sources, local produce. Kasi the more we come up with something that's unacceptable to them, immediately they will decide to cut whatever it is that they're buying from us, or whatever it is that they're selling to us. It becomes a trade issue. We're talking of security mainly because we're talking of the daily needs and subsistence of our fellow Filipinos, particularly in the local communities. And until such time that the policymakers understand how fundamental the issue is, we will only be seeing shirts being worn during basketball game, and they will think that it is already enough to pursue a particular policy.
Yan po si Yusek Tayaw. Narinig natin, parang yung issue nga ng West Philippine Sea ay di lang pala Pilipinas at bansang China ang concerned, kundi meron pang mga ibang bansa. Naging isang ASEAN level matter for consultations and consensus building, like in all other policy matters. Yun yung nabanggit niya. So he also mentioned Korea at Japan na maaaring may similar when it comes to the marine areas or the marine resort. Also, yung sa akin na nagustuhan sa nabanggit niya, hindi tayo hinihiwalay nung oceans and seas that are between the islands. Pero in fact, ni-unite nga tayo. Halimbawa, travel purpose, yung highway na sinasabi. O trade purpose. Connect lahat ng economy. Yung pala, unti-unti ko na rin naunawaan yung new economy. Burns.
Tama po, ma'am. And sabi niya pa nga po, di ba, na parang pasadahan ko lang din po yung nabanggit niya na sabi niya rin po kasi ni Yusek Edmund Tayaw na kaya tayo archipelagic nation because it is not just a division but an advantage for us. Kasi if ma-utilize talaga natin ng tama, magkakaroon ng inter-island activities at yun po, nabanggit din na naman po ang blue economy. And ang blue economy ay hindi lang siya usapin sa coastal environment, kundi usaping security din talaga siya. Like the blue economy, the food that we eat, the West Philippine Sea, hindi lang sila hindi lang sila naka-focus sa isang bagay or isang issue, kundi it's the overall security of the island or of the Philippines, of our country. And sa unang part pa lang po na shinare po ni Yusek, lesson na po agad din na hindi po enough yung law revision or i-update lang yung law or gumawa na naman ng panibagong batas tapos hindi na naman po natin na utilize talaga. So, kasi po yung pagkuha natin ng natural gas sources ay hit and miss siya na kailangan is nasa 5 to 11 years para po talaga maging sustainable. Kaya panawagan is ma-utilize po ng tama yung law na sinasabi natin for our seas para maprotektahan po natin yung bakit ba tinatawag na archipelagic nation ang Pilipinas.
At sana we keep in mind yung sustainably.
Yes.
Sustainable ways or means of utilizing our sources, marine resources. Okay, yan si Yusek Tayaw. Punta ulit tayo naman sa susunod na speaker ng conversations na yon. Siya po ay si Professor Jacqueline Espenilla. Siya ay ang Director ng UP Law Center Institute for Maritime Affairs and the Law of the Sea. So kita nyo nga naman, UP, pero may Law Center, tapos may Institute pala for Maritime Affairs and the Law of the Sea. Pakinggan po natin si Professor Espenilla. Ang dami din po niyang dahil profesora po siya, ay ang dami niyang naituro doon sa mga nakinig ng conversations na yan.
What I will focus on ngayon po ay parang quick orientation lang po kung ano ba yung maritime zones ng Pilipinas under the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. Ito yung tinatawag nating Constitution of the Oceans ng buong mundo. So kung baga, it's an international treaty which all countries, including the Philippines and including China, accept and recognize. And ito yung basis natin for saying what would be yung mga maritime entitlements ng mga various countries around the world. Bukod po dito, isa pang basihan natin para malaman kung ano ba talagang konsepto ng Philippine waters ay ang ating sariling constitution, pati ang ating mga sariling batas. Kung saan yun yung nagiging parang guide natin talaga para alam kung saan tayo pwedeng gumawa ng batas, saan natin pwede i-enforce itong batas ito, at kung saan tayo pwedeng kumuha ng resources. This is a familiar map to many of you. Dashes in red, hindi yan 9 dashes, parang isang namakmak na dashes, but who knows anymore, lagi nag-iiba naman yung dashes nila, di ba? So we have this red dashed lines representing what China claims. I wanted to present this map just to show you how that overlays with the Philippine EEZ na talagang naging parte na ng ating claimed maritime territory because of our willingness to realign our baselines and everything I just discussed. So ito po, hanggang dito po ang ating EEZ. 200 nautical miles out from where the land meets the sea. And yet, andito si China, hanggang dito na. So talagang, meron tayong maling sitwasyon dito. If we had stuck to the Treaty of Paris box, it would have been like this. But it would have just been exactly the same kind of argument that China uses. Na history, we have been the occupants and the traditional stewards of this space of the oceans for hundreds of years, exactly the same thing. But we cannot use the same argument, obviously, because now we have a better argument. Law, international law, saying this is the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines where only we have the right to the resources, only we can build artificial islands, only we can use the fishes, harvest the fishes, and do anything that has economic value in that area. They cannot. So they are in the wrong. And in fact, the Philippines versus China Arbitral Tribunal did bear out that reality, that China has no right to actually impose their 9-dash line and override UNCLOS. So they are being basically in violation of their own commitment under UNCLOS. Na, by the way, party din po sila ng UNCLOS, ha? Next slide. I wanted to tell you that there are other things that are going on that sort of affect our perception of the Philippine territory. To the south, we have very close, we live in very close proximity to Malaysia and Indonesia, to the point na if i-count po natin ang UNCLOS 200 nautical miles from where the land meets the sea, mag-overlap po yan. Babangga po ang Indonesia at ang Philippine EEZ. So anong gagawin natin kung ganun? Well, we negotiate in good faith, and in fact, we did. So now there's an agreement between the Philippines and Indonesia to make a fair division or a separation between the Philippine and Indonesia EEZ. So we have that agreement in place. Now we're just working out the precise plotting ng mga base points between these two countries. Next slide. One more thing that affects our concept of territory, the Benham Rise. So yan pa rin si Treaty of Paris box, just to show you where it is, and then our baselines, and then our EEZ up to green. Remember what I said earlier, up and down ang tingin natin sa ating maritime space. So 200 nautical miles of water as well as 200 nautical miles of the seabed underneath. Yun yung basic entitlement. Pero if you can prove that there's a geologic connection between your continental shelf and a protrusion beyond 200 nautical miles, then you may claim that protrusion. And this is where that actually happened here. So dito, and I'm sure Doc Lau can probably explain the science of this better. This is we have evidence, or we were able to substantiate a claim that there was that connection, geologic connection that allowed us to claim the Benham Rise over here. So kung titingnan natin, lumaki po ba yung Philippine territory? Yes, in a manner of speaking. Tignan mo, lampas po siya sa both EEZ as well as the Treaty of Paris box. Within that space, and we're only talking about yung seabed, hindi kasama si waters above, we can, in fact, explore, exploit, and extract within that area. But this is also a highly ecologically sensitive area, so syempre we have to walk carefully in that in our plans for Benham Rice. Next step, so I'm at the end of my presentation finally. So we have, I just wanted to quickly point out that we have come a long way from the Treaty of Paris box, but we're not yet fully in the clear. There are still things we can do to safeguard the Philippine territory. And then two of them are legislative in nature. One, the enactment of the Philippine Maritime Zones Act. For whatever reason, hindi pa natin to ginagawa. So this will finally put to bed this issue of hanggang saan ba ang karagatan ng Pilipinas. It tells us definitively what are internal waters, what are archipelagic waters, what are up to what extent is our EEZ. Important po yan for a couple of things. Number one, for enforcement purposes. Magkakakumpiyansa na po ang ating mga our naval and Coast Guard assets, let's say, hanggang saan sila pwede mag-enforce. Kasi right now, hindi pa sila sure eh. Minsan nagkakaroon pa ng hesitation and doubt. Particularly troubling if you have confrontations in the South China Sea. It tells us as well, our agencies like BFAR, DENR, up to what extent they can, for example, create a marine protected area. It tells you how much you can harmonize your laws around these spaces as long as there is clarity as to what you can and cannot do in those areas. The other important piece of legislation that is also in the works right now, ang tinatawag the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act. And here, the simple concept of this is, it's a way for us to plot the right of way of other countries to go through our archipelago. As an archipelagic state, we occupy a position of privilege relative to other countries in the world. Ang laki ng dagat na na-enclose ng archipelagic baselines and therefore treated as our national waters, archipelagic waters. Siyempre, umalma yung ibang mga bansa. Parang daya naman nun. We used to treat that as high seas. We used to pass through there and now you take it away. So for us to enjoy this right and for them to sign off on us having this right under UNCLOS, we had to make a deal. The deal is, we will still let you pass through, right of way nyo. But the catch is, because it's our waters, we tell you where your right of way will be. Right now, we have not yet done that. And they are going through whenever and wherever they want, and that can be a problem. So by the Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act, just to simplify it, we will dictate saan po sila pwedeng dumaan through our country in a manner that is least intrusive to us. Hindi makakasagasan ng coral reef, hindi po makaka-aberya sa mga fisher folk natin, hindi po makakasira sa ating economy or our environment. So this is imperative because unless and until we do that, then it seems to be basically a free-for-all. So these are the two next legislative steps that we are currently working on in both houses, upper and lower house of Congress, and hopefully within the year or maybe early next year, these two will materialize and safeguard our national territory even more.
Oh my. Parang ilang minuto lang yun, pero napuno yung utak ko. Dami kong notes. Oh. Sabi ni Prof. Espinilla, only we siya ng only we dun sa EEZ natin. Kung i-relate natin dun sa mga nakaraang episodes na pinag-usapan natin ng sovereignty, sovereign rights, connected yan lahat na ito ay ating national water, sabi nga ni Prof. Espinilla. So we should, sabi nga ni Sir Ed De La Torre, protect it and if necessary, defend it. We should appreciate it, protect it, and defend it. Ang dami pang binanggit. Parang ang gusto ko tuloy mag-further studies in marine science and kung ano-ano dyan na related sa ating karagatan at katubigan. Ikaw, Burns?
Sa akin din po, more of like law of the sea talaga si Prof. Espinilla. And the fact na in layman's term niya na i-share sa atin yung kahalagahan ng dalawang legislative steps na yon, yung dalawang law po na yun, na enactment of the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, tsaka po yung Archipelagic Sea Lanes Act. Parang parang thankful kasi naintindihan ko po na hindi ko na kailangan basahin pa yung buong ano po na yun na napakahaba. Opo. And isa din po sa mga nabanggit po ni Prof. Espinilla is yung pagkakaroon po talaga ng clarity doon sa mga law na nabanggit. And I think nasabi rin po yun ni Yusek kanina sa una nating video na sana mapagtuunan ng pansin at maging isa sa mga tingnanin in doing negotiations agreement to our neighboring countries para po ma-impose natin yung EEZ talaga natin. And kasi nabanggit din po ni Prof. Espinilla kanina na maski yung Coast Guard natin, confused sila if saan ba talaga yung saan ba yung hangganan ng territory natin kasi hindi pa natin na-exercise yung dalawang legislative steps po na nabanggit niya. And yun po, so hopefully itong dalawang steps po na nabanggit niya, yung dalawang law po ay very important naman sila, na-emphasize naman po ni Prof. Espinilla, and very important para po ma-safeguard po talaga natin yung territory natin. Kasi up until now po, sabi niya na hindi pa nagagawa yung deal na yun na or i-impose yung dalawang acts na yun. Pero they're in the process po sa legislative houses po natin.
Oo. Ngayon na-realize ko, kaya pala yung title ng conversations na yun ay appreciating. Kasi appreciate mo talaga eh. Hindi lang the seas as yung ating coastal waters or marine resources, but there's a science to it, yung 200 nautical miles, may geography, and even law. So yun siguro yung essence of appreciating it for all its dimensions na dapat nating naunawaan bilang Pilipino, bilang mamamayan, bilang citizen. Sige. Our third speaker, siya naman po ay si Dr. Laura David. Nabanggit po siya kanina ni Prof. Espinilla. Director po siya ng Marine Science Institute of the University of the Philippines. Marami din po siyang nabanggit at nag-broaden pa siya sa iba't ibang dimensions, hindi lang sa science and law na tinutukan nila Yusek Tayaw at ni Prof. Espinilla. Nagbanggit pa at nagdagdag pa ng iba pang dimensions and aspects to our seas and pagiging archipelagic country, si Dr. David. Pakinggan po natin siya.
So,
Okay.
Siguro po pati yung laptop ko na-excite, na-overload na po sa dami po ng information na binibigay sa atin. Pero tingnan po natin.
so
Ayan.
historically, tiningnan ko kung ano na nangyari sa buong Pilipinas. At lumabas, may mga lugar na ang problema lang ay sea level rise. No? Actually, buong Pilipinas, problema sea level rise. Pero may mga lugar na parang lahat na lang naging problema nila. Meron ng grabing init, painit ng painit, extreme rainfall events like Ondoy, disturbed water budget. Disturbed water budget po, tag-ulan na, wala pa ring ulan. Tag-init na, ulan pa rin na ulan. No? So, hindi na siya tama doon sa season na alam natin. Tapos, sea level rise. So, depende kung nasan kayo, iba yung kailangan nyo tutukan. May mga lugar na sea level rise ang pinakadapat katakutan, may mga lugar na marami kayong kailangang tugunan. Tinignan po namin yung pinakatatamaan ng mga komunidad ng mangingisda. So, ARM ang pinakatatamaan. Maguindanao, Lanao del Sur, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi. Yung sa mangroves nila, ang delikado. Kasi sea level rise po, grabe doon. So, tinignan namin bawat isa. Kawawa rin si Leyte, Samar, Eastern Samar kasi hindi lang si mangrove, pati si coral nila tatamaan. So yun po yung namin, bawat isang lugar, ano yung pinakatatamaan. So kung mangingisda ka na ang iniisda mo ay si coral, yung sa may coral, si lapu-lapu, ganun. delikado pag doon ka nakatira, ang tatamaan ay coral. Pag ako yung mangingisda na yun talaga yung target ko, municipal fisher ako, importante, alagaan ko yung habitat ko, no? Pag wala yon, wala na akong pangisda. Tapos papasukan pa ako ng commercial fisher. Diba? So, mahirap talaga. Pero ang pinaka-problema po ng Pilipinas ay sea level rise. Buong Pilipinas. Kasi napakalaki nga nung sinabi ni Yusek kanina ni Director kanina na karagatan, di ba? So, pag umiikot si mundong ganito, lahat ng lumobo na dagat ng Pacific, doon niya na itutulak sa atin. Sa atin, sa Papua New Guinea, sa Japan. So, pinakalobo dito. So, 3 to 5 times higher than the global average. Next slide, please. So, ang problema dito, so, meron ka ng sea level rise na mas mataas kaysa sa the rest of the world, meron ka pang bagyo. So, together, meron kang sobrang grabing flooding na nangyayari, lalo na kung may bagyo. So, pag category 1, mga 1 meter. Pag category 5, kagaya nung nangyari sa Tacloban, talagang 6-meter waves ang pwedeng mangyari sa'yo. At ito nga yung resulta sa Haiyan. No? Next slide, please. So, meron na po nag-aral niyan, no, sa National Institute of Geological Sciences, sila Pides et al. Pinag-aralan po nila buong Pilipinas, ano yung pwedeng pinakamataas na storm surge na mangyari sa kanya. So, Samar po, pinakamataas talaga. 7.45 ang pwedeng mangyari sa kanya. Yung iba pong Leyte po is 6.8. Yung pong mga kaninang pinakita natin na pwedeng tamaan like Lanao del Sur, nung ibang climate change, meron pa rin po, 3.6. So, depende kung nasan kayo, iba yung most likely na height na kailangan paghandaan. Okay. Ito po yung number ng population density. So, compute nyo na yung mga pwedeng magkaroon ng problema. At karamihan po dito, syempre fisher. Kasi fishing community naman yung nasa coast. So, tinignan ko po yun, in-overlay ko yung ginawa nila Lapides dun sa ginawa natin na tatamaan ng ibang climate change. At ito po yung lumabas na pareho. Si Sulu, Bulacan, Negros Occidental, Iloilo, and Quezon. So, delikado na yung kabuhayan ng fisher, delikado pa yung tirahan nila. No? So, yun yung pinakadapat tutukan nationally. Ang hinighlight ko po dito yung pinakagrabe, which is Bulacan. Grabe po ang sea level rise ng Bulacan. At Cotabato. So, yun po yung mga kailangan paghandaan. So, ano yung pwede natin gawin? Hindi naman pwede mag-give up na lang tayo. No? Hindi natin kayang pigilan si climate change. Kasi hindi naman tayo yung nag-cause sa kanya. At kahit natigilin ng powers that be, yung ginagawa lang ngayon, medyo meron na siyang snowball effect. Matagal bago siya maubos yung lakas. So one is marine protected area talaga. Alagaan mo kung ano yung meron para hindi ka talaga tamaan. No? The more biodiverse, the better. At mayroong mga studies na nagpakita na kung andun yung tatlong lugar, si coral, si seagrass, si mangrove, mas maraming isda, mas maraming klase, at mas malalaki. So ngayon, yun po yung tinutulak natin yan, no? Kasi sa pagdating sa policy, kalamihan po ng ating protected area ay coral reef lang or mangrove lang. Wala tayong integrated na andun yung tatlo. So ang tinutulak po namin ngayon na sana humanap ng mga lugar na andun yung tatlo at unahin yun sa protection. At may mga studies na nagpakita, depende sa lapad ng mangrove sa harap, ganun din yung reduction ng lakas ng storm surge. So kung gusto nyo, imbis na 6 meters, 3 meters lang, 50% reduction, kailangan meron kang at least 2 to 3 kilometers wide na mangrove. No? So, yun ang makatulong. Kung manipis lang po siya, baliwala din. So, kailangan kilometro talaga ang usapan. Marami naman po nabibigay si mangrove. Hindi lang po yung protection, pati nursery. Ang dami pa po, pwede naman siyang tourism site, pwede siyang taga-sequester ng carbon, pwede tayo mag-carbon trade internally, wag external. So, marami naman po magagawa. So, there's a policy right now that's being pushed in the lower house. I think it already passed the lower house. It's now on the upper house. Yung greening program, coastal greening belt of the Philippines along with the integrated coastal management. So sana po pumasa at lahat tayo makikinabang. No? So hindi lang mangrove pati po beach forest. Next slide po. And then the third thing we can do is to start planning. So meron, alam naman po natin ito yung high tide ngayon. So hindi tayo tumitira sa nababasa. Pero alam na po natin kung saan tatama si sea level rise. At meron na ring study kung saan tatama si storm surge. So kung magtatayo po tayo ng ospital, ng classroom kasi ginagamit din siyang evacuation center, or evacuation center, doon na po sana sa mas mataas sa lahat ng to. Yung tinatawag na low risk zone. Huwag na po tayo magtayo ng ospital doon sa high risk zone. So lumayo din please sa pagtatayo ng bahay sa river, lalo na po sa river bend. Kasi yung sa river bend po, ang tubig po pumapasok ng ganong kalakas, hindi naman siya magbe-bend. Iibabaw siya sa river bend. So kawawa yung mga nakatira sa river bend. So ano po ang alam natin? The Philippines has high biodiversity that we can rely on for resilience, so we have to protect that. Maapektuhan ng ating pagkain, kabuhayan, at tirahan. Anong pwede natin gawin? Create multi-habitat MPAs, na andun si coral, si seagrass, si mangrove. Be active in mangrove and beach forest reforestation. Plan for a tiered community, yung palayo na po tayo. Hindi na uso yung 3 meter, 10 meter, 40 meter easement. Wala rin po rin yung science-based, kagaya po nung ating Treaty of Paris. Walang scientific basis ang 310-20, 310-40. No? Dapat po, height from sea level ang ating gawing basahan. Okay? And then, support MPA networks. No? Hindi lang dapat tapat ko, protect ko, kundi lahat. And then, study how to make our mariculture more resilient. Kasi kalahati ng pagkain natin galing sa kanila. Yun lang po. Salamat.
Mauna ka naman, Burns.
Sige po. Maraming salamat po kay Doc David. Kasi mas na-unlock din po sa ating episode ngayong gabi na ang 80% more of our life is really found underwater. Na sabi po ng isa sa mga thought leaders po na mga naging naging speakers din po ng ating mga pinalabas po na videos doon, especially doon po sa The Way Forward. And sabi din kanina sa slides that, careful planning of location and extent must take into consideration possible to climate change na related pa rin po sa hazards para sa ating coastal communities. Kasi nabanggit mo nga din kanina, Ma'am Kai, na hindi lang about law, kundi dapat may scientific base din yung lahat ng pinanggagalingan natin. Kasi if, data-driven at scientific based po yung mga yung pinagbabasihan natin, there are things and factors na makukonsider po talaga in the overall decision design po ng para po sa ating para mas maprotektahan po yung coastal environment natin and the coastal communities kasi sila po talaga yung maapektuhan when time comes that there's natural disasters and stuff na related po sa flooding, sa typhoons and stuff. And kanina po nabanggit din na sea level rise ang pinaka-problema ng buong Pilipinas kasi 3 to 5 times higher daw po itong sea level rise natin from the global average. Tapos may bagyo pa na sobra-sobra din po yung mga flooding. And ngayon din po parang nasagot yung tanong ko, bakit palaging summer at Leyte yung pinaka-tinatamaan ng bagyo, ng flooding, etc. Kasi po sila po pala ang may pinakamataas ang surge level when kapag merong sea level rise and stuff like that. So yun po.
Ako din, yung tuloy na isip ko, panawagan, parang call to action sa kabataan, lalong-lalo na, because the world will be yours. At kahit sa sino pa man, kahit hindi ka mangingisda, maliit na mangingisda o commercial fisher, municipal fisher, yung pagsuporta, call nga din yun ni Dr. David, no? Pagsuporta sa mga marine protected areas, sa mga mangrove reforestation, at sinasabi niya ay kung manipis lang yung mangrove forest mo, parang hindi rin gaano makakatulong. Kailangan 1 hanggang 3 kilometro ang kapal ng yung mangrove forest mula sa shoreline, no? Mula sa coastline. So, ganun ka-heavy, ganun kabigat ang ating responsibilidad. Hindi naman tayo nananakot, hindi naman tayo, yun nga, nananakot. Ano lang to, kailangan na aware, taasan yung kamulatan, taasan yung ating consciousness. Tapos, yung call to action nga ni Dr. David, meron na magawa, gawin na natin. So, hindi naman tayo mag-give up lang. So, call to action sa mga citizens, lalo na sa kabataan, at call to action din sana sa mga local governments. Sabi nung isang speaker natin the last time, halos kalahati or more than half of our local government units ay coastal areas, ay coastline. So, ito din ay pagprotekta, hindi lang ng mga mamamayan. Siyempre, mas sustainable, mas institutionalized kapag nandyan ang local government to lead it, to support it, and to invest in protection of our marine waters, coastal resources. Yon. At our last speaker, last na to, Burns, ika-4 nating speaker nung conversations na yon ay our very own, PRRM's very own, Aaron Taylor. Siya po ay isang marine science and climate change expert ng PRRM at ganun din po, siya po ang isa sa mga co-convener sa DRR Network Philippines. No? Siya po ay nag-contribute din, nagbahagi din doon sa conversations na iyon ng kanya thoughts galing sa kanyang karanasan bilang community field worker, bilang expert sa marine biology, fish doctor nga po ang tawag niya sa kanyang sarili, at bilang development worker. Yun po ang perspective na pinanggalingan ni Dr. Sharon. Pakinggan po natin.
Majority of our cities, municipalities, provinces are classified as coastal. So Madaming population is within the high-risk area. So we have to think about our coastal communities at saka sa marine environment. The Philippines is at the center of that center of marine biodiversity. So within those marine environments is where fishery resources are spawned, nurtured, offering nursery habitats and breeding grounds for many marine species that are economically and ecologically important. Most of the coastal communities, as I said, depend on the coastal resource for a source of livelihood. Coastal fishing provides approximately 45% of the country's total catch. Talking about the food, it's important for both food security and food self-sufficiency. May ibang classification sa dalawa. Food security is defined by the Food and Agricultural Organization as all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food, which meets their dietary requirements and food preferences. Right. Pwede na mag-access madaming pagkain, but it's not healthy and nutritious, or hindi acceptable sa kultura at saka diet sa tao, in which case, impacts sa health and lifestyle sa tao. Whereas food self-sufficiency is the extent to which a country, this can also apply to regions, to individuals, that can satisfy its food needs from its own domestic consumption. Okay? Domestic production. So the consumption needs are met by the production. Okay? So that still needs to be addressed even domestically, the export-import, meeting your own needs first bagong binibenta. Yeah. So as we said, we have a lot of coastal communities. We have a lot of marine resources. There's a symbiotic relationship between sa tao at saka resources. Dapat ang production needs meets the consumption needs domestically. Kaya yun, Center of Marine Biodiversity. So anong problema? We have environmental degradation, we have marine pollution, we have overfishing, we have destructive fishing practices such as cyanide, dynamite. We have loss of fish breeding and nursery areas, which all results in lowered fish catch, so lowered production. On top of that, we have impacts of climate change, increase in temperature, increase in rainfall events, unpredictable weather patterns, extreme events, increasing negative impact of disasters, and displacement sa tao. This leads to coral bleaching, increased ocean acidification, so decreased coral and shellfish growth, an increase in prevalence of red tides. But red tides is not only the result of climate change, but also marine pollution as well, and ibang factors. But increasing sea surface temperatures certainly assists the increase in prevalence of red tide. We also have mangrove deforestation, whether it's from coastal development, land use change patterns, or, as we said earlier, saltwater intrusion from sea level rise into the area. We all know what happens with extreme weather events, with climate change. It's likely to be an increase in intensity of storms hitting the Philippines. Not necessarily an increase in frequency, but an increase in intensity. Okay? We've already seen mas magandang ang natural barrier and protection of coastal communities sa Bakawan. Okay. So complex ang issues and threats sa marine environment. Okay. These are existing domestically. The Philippines is a tropical country. Our fish, marine resources are already at the upper limit of temperature tolerance. The climate change scenarios for mid-century, so 2050, pero hindi New Year's Eve sa 2049, na mag-similize sa climate change scenario yan. It's anywhere from between 2035 to 2065. We're now 2023, 12 years na, potentially na magnikita. An increase in temperature of a minimum of 1 degree C to a maximum of 2.3 degrees C. Yun ang latest climate change scenarios. If we're already at the upper limit of temperature tolerance, paano man gagawa sa isda ang marine resources? Sobrang init. Anong gagawa? You either move to a cooler environment or fish kills. So either we're going to have outmigration of fish from the tropical areas, which covers all our archipelagic region, or kung hindi pwede na mag-migrate sila because of their territoriality, na mag-die sila. If coastal fisheries provides 40 to 60% of the total fish catch in the country, paano man gagawa kung kulang na magkuhuli? What do we need to have in place to ensure not only sufficient food and food security, pero may hanap buhay sa maliit sa mangingisda? So we have a higher risk of food insecurity and loss of livelihoods, an increasing conflict over resources. You start getting diminished resources, mag-awayin sa tao over those limited resources. Complex ang systems sa integration of issues galing sa lupa hanggang sa dagat. Kailangan ng multi-approach, multi-solution approach para sa lahat sa issues. We've already heard marine protected areas, integrated coastal management, information, education, access to information, risk analyses. This is where you need the complementation of scientific data with local knowledge. Kailangan early warning systems, flood protection, shoreline stabilization, mangrove replanting, conservation. This is what Dr. Laro was saying. Wag ng marine protected areas lang, pwede din na lahat sa marine habitats na mag-link up in a protective system sa integrated coastal management.
Yan po, si Dr. Sharon Taylor. Yung isa sa huling nabanggit niya, yung combining scientific knowledge, scientific data with local knowledge. Actually, yan po yung ginagawa din naman ng maraming mga institutions or even NGOs and people's organizations na sa ibang organisasyon, ang tawag nila ay participatory resource appraisal, kung saan yung mga residente, yung mga taong involved ay sama-samang nagsusuri, nagbibilang, nagsusuri, nag-oobserba, at nagkakaroon ng kanilang mga analysis and solutions doon sa kanilang sitwasyon, sa kanilang mga problema. So, isa yan sa mga pwedeng gawin sa local community, especially sa fishing communities na magiging na sentro ng ating topic of the Philippines being a marine and archipelagic nation. Kamuna, Bers, tapos may idagdag ako doon sa presentation ni Doc Sha.
Ano lang din po, katulad din po ng nabanggit niyo na dapat po may scientific base talaga. So generally speaking, siguro po let's be mindful and always look for the right knowledge because knowledge is power. At ngayon na alam po natin ng mga bagay na to para po maprotektahan natin ang ating mga karagatan, ng ating marine environment and coastal communities. Meron po tayong basehan para po masuportahan yun at makapag-propose ng solutions at makapag-take tayo ng actions together po.
Sige. Pinupull up ni Berna yung poster for the next, yun sa pinangako namin kanina na tungkol sa second civilian mission. Kung napansin niyo po sa PowerPoint slides ni Dr. Sharon Taylor, nakalagay po doon na ang September, kaya din po September yung conversations last year. Ang September ay MANA Month o MANAMO, Marine and Archipelagic Nation Month. So every September po ng kada taon ay parang inaalala natin at sineselebrate ang pagiging archipelago ng Pilipinas. So sa darating na September, magkakaroon po ulit tayo ng conversations about this. So ito po bilang huling topic for tonight, for this episode. Ito po ay an international observer ng atin ito campaign. Ito po ay tungkol sa West Philippine Sea natin. Nakita nyo naman ang magtong poster. Sa manlulupig, hindi Pacific. Lines yan ng
Medyo naputol lang po kayo.
Kung sa manlulupig, hindi tayo pasisiil. Ay, sorry. Oo. Linya yan ng ating ano.
Linya po.
Ay, mission. Yung first, ano po, mission ay from Palawan. Itong second one ay from Zambales. So sa Baho ang magpa-participate ito, learning trip para sa at yung mission talaga ay mag-slice sa mga mangingisda na nandun sa area na yan na meron second mission. Nagsisimula na
So,
po ang mga donations na dumarating sa of points sa Akbayan office at saka sa PRRM office. Ito po yung ilang maaari ninyong ma-donate dito sa resupply mission na to para po sa mga maliliit na mangingisda na nandun sa area ng Bajo de Masinloc, food items, protective and personal gears, fishing gears and supplies, at kung may iba pa pong items. Pero ito, yung mga most basic and most important items sa civilian supply and international observers mission na ito. So may media po nakasama. Meron din pong maliit na mangingisda na sa may din po na suporta at cover dag.
Wala naman po specifically, pero naririnig niyo ba ako, Ma'am Kai? Ayan. So, ano lang po, siguro singit ko lang kasi may bago pong trend ngayon, yung ano po, yung Piliin Mo ang Pilipinas Challenge. So, parang
Yeah.
cute ano lang po, call to action na sana hindi lang tayo maki-join sa trend na to, kundi by action, piliin din po talaga natin ang Pilipinas, ang ating bayang sinilangan. At sa mga manlulupig, hindi po dapat tayo pasisiil. Yan po. So habang hinihintay natin si Ma'am Kai, ayun na, bumalik ka na po ata.
Yeah.
Ayan.
Yung pinagit po ni Berna ay sa segundahan ko, no? Yung, ano nga Berns ulit yun?
May ano po, may Piliin Mo ang Pilipinas Challenge, bago pong trend.
Yeah. Oo. Marami tayong pwedeng mabanggit doon, no? Siguro for a start tayo dalawa Berns, mag-post din tayo, pipiliin ko ang Pilipinas na may kaugnayan dito sa ating mana natin o sa ating ito campaign o sa binanggit nga ni Sir Edna, we must appreciate it, we must protect it, and if necessary, we must defend it. At yan ang mission naman talaga ng atin ito at yung mana natin na framework ng PRRM ay malawak na pag-unawa at pag-appreciate sa marine resources, sa sustainable management of our coastal resources. At yung binanggit ng ating 4 na speakers ngayong gabi, ang kahalagahan ng food, livelihood, and settlements. Food security, livelihood, and settlements. Doon, lalo na doon sa coastal areas. Hindi lamang ng mga mangingisda, pero kahit na yung mga iba pang mga mamamayan na nandito sa coastal areas natin. So yun yung sana'y mapulot at tumimok sa ating isipan ngayong gabi. I-share din po siguro namin yung the longer versions of the video ng mga inputs ng ating resource speakers para mas ma-appreciate nyo yung iba pa nilang mga binanggit dahil highlights namin. Sa PRRM website, pwedeng makita yan in the near future. Inaayos pa po namin. Berna, say thank you for tonight.
Yes, maraming salamat po sa mga libu-libong nanonood sa amin. At magkita-kita po tayo ulit sa susunod po na Sabado. Dahil po,
Salamat.
pag-uusapan po natin.
Salamat din kay sa Inet, sa SISO,
at sa
COVID, panahon ng COVID, kay Cassandra, kay Andy, nakasama namin sa mga technical preparations para sa episode na to at sa next week. Next week po pala, abangan ninyo dahil magbabalita kami kung anong nangyari sa second resupply mission, second civilian resupply mission. So dito lamang po, hanggang sa susunod na linggo, marami pong salamat.
Salamat po.
Bye, Burns.
Bye-bye.